Welcome into Right Stuff, a Blood Bowl podcast sponsored by Empire Games. I'm Yannie, here with Nathan, and we are rapidly approaching the end of this season of Blood Bowl and I guess the podcast.
Yeah, we're down to the top 8. Competition gets just more fierce from here. More death, more destruction, more touchdowns, somewhere in that mix. But yeah, we're creeping towards the end of the league here.
Yeah, but one league ending means that another league is going to be beginning. So we want to take a quick second to talk about Empire Cup Season 9.
Right. Start date for that is going to be June 1st. So depending on when you hear this, we're recording this on May 6th, but you got about 20 some odd days before the next league starts. We are doing a carryover league this time. This season was a fresh start season. This next league is going to be a carryover league, so teams from past seasons are allowed to be played into this. We normally had a redraft purse of $1.4 million. We've decided to rein that in a little bit. So if you're carrying over a team, you have to have $100K left in your treasury. You have 1.3 to redraft with. That 100K will get removed from your treasury by admin before the season starts. And new teams are getting a big buff. There's a lot of people actually really excited about this, and I'm glad that some returning players will be happy to bring like a team over that's a little bit more powerful than normal. So you still have a fresh million to make a roster with, but you do get 6 primary skills to give to the team. You can swap 2 primary skills for a secondary skill, and you can do that all 3 times if you would like. So you end up with a fairly potent starting team in this, and that should help you compete with a lot of these disgusting teams that are getting carried over. So there's more info about that in the Discord, and obviously you can always ask the commissioner or store staff about any of the Blood Bowl changes. Generally speaking, me and Wayne know what's going on with the league, so reach out to us if you got any questions.
Yeah. Well, we can't all be looking forward to the next league. Some of us are still in the playoff hunt, not to spoil anything too much, but we have finished the first round of playoffs.
A lot of busted brackets, I'd say.
Every bracket has been busted in some capacity.
Yeah.
Some are still standing fairly strong. Some are just in tatters.
I think I went 5 for 8 through the first games, but my picks from here get worse because like my finals picks didn't pan out. So
yes, same for me. I will take a second to brag that I had 7 out of 8 of the first round correct, the highest total, but my champion has been taken out in the first round. So we'll get all of that.
Yeah.
Very quickly, let's go through some games so we can get through these games and talk about the ones left. We only have 7 games left in the season.
Yep.
So
exactly.
We'll have to learn to talk more about them.
Half of the playoffs have been tackled, basically. That's one of those things when you get into like tournament math. How many ever games happen in the first round? That is basically half of the games in any kind of a single elimination bracket like this. So.
Right. Okay, let's talk about bracket A. First game up, we had Halfling Justice over the Electric City Maulers, 4-0. I think that was a result we were somewhat expecting, just given the team compositions.
We were expecting a Halfling Justice win. I think this was a little bit more of a sound victory than I would have necessarily predicted. And I think a lot of it boils down to that the Maulers were not in a position to force the Halflings to deviate from the game plan that Wayne has honed and crafted over the last several seasons, right? The big guys were not enough of a threat to the trees, right? No claws on big guys to force the trees to respect the line of scrimmage. Instead, Griff kind of took over that game. There were a lot of instances where the ball just ended up on the ground in a place where Griff could run away with it. And that's you like Henderson had like a handful of tools to deal with Griff, and I got to watch a little bit of the game through streaming because it happened on my day off, so I had that pulled up on the screen while I was building some Star Wars Unlimited decks, and looking at it, it felt really. I think if you swap the tables, if you give Wayne the Renegade team, and anybody else is playing the Halfling team, I think everybody would struggle to win that game from Henderson's position. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say the conclusion was foregone, but it's not a good matchup.
Right. Yeah. From what I saw of it, it's similar veins. Just like if you don't have someone that matches up favorably against a Griff, it's like that Dark Elf was powerful, but still, if that's like your main threat.
Yeah, you have a 7-speed, no sprint, no sure feet, no free reroll Griff versus Griff, right? Your Griff is 3 strength. The other person's Griff is Griff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not gonna. You're on the wrong side of the matchup, right?
Yeah. Up next, a game that many people would say was an upset given brackets of Salesmen over Gnarly Oaks with a 1-0. It was a grind out win.
Yeah, and this was a game where both players were slugging it out. From what it sounded like, Sean had pretty cold dice for the majority of this game. When I've played against him, he's a player who will try to make something happen, right? Like he can identify when he's behind on the board. He'll try to make something happen. And his dice just didn't cooperate. Now, I remember looking at the board at one point and thinking, how does Sean stop Jurgen from scoring here? Because it was like the ball was on like the block halfling, one of the block goblins, and it was completely flanked by black orcs, and they had basically like cleared a path, like the tree was stuck somewhere else on the pitch, and Sean's team was just like battered and knocked around, but Jurgen was up 1-0 at the time, so I like wandered by the table and saw that situation, was like, oh, Jurgen's got this one in the bag. But Sean somehow stopped him from scoring. I'm not sure how he did it, but that's the hallmark of a KG experienced player, where you look at a board state and you're like, oh, this is a foregone conclusion, but the person stops it from happening.
Another game, there was another upset. This is the first one that busted a majority of the brackets when it came in. Great Tree Good Boyus over Return to Monkey 1-0. The revenge has been completed.
Yeah, this one was like completely surprised me, right? I was actually expecting a number of touchdowns in this game, because I think gnomes have a lot of ways to score, and ogres are not bad at just like forcing the ball through, especially if like you've got kind of paper thin, if you got a glass jaw like a lot of gnomes do. I was expecting something to happen there, but the Will pulled off like a pretty good upset here, I'd say. This was like a pretty convincing win. Chatting with him a little bit afterwards, he thinks that gnomes are going to be slightly favored in that matchup. Talking with Sean afterwards, Sean thinks it's like a 40-60 for the ogres, right? So it's like ogres are 40, gnomes are 60. I hope I'm getting that right. But yeah, I guess it's just kind of like the foxes kind of make the big difference in that matchup. The ogres don't have anything like that. The ogres are going to need a 3-up or better somewhere in the game to actually get the ball. gnomes can get by with 2s in a couple of places. And I think for the most part, like, inducements are going to be a wash. There's very few things that one team could take that the other couldn't. Some way or another, like if ogres take bomber, then the gnomes could take Cindy to try to like cancel it out. So I don't know. Interesting matchup. Definitely a surprising outcome.
Yeah. So I think the most surprising thing about this game was the fact that looking back to the previous iteration of this game from last season, the gnome team won, but was left just completely shattered going into the next round. This case for Will doesn't have that same issue. He's got more of his team intact.
Exactly. The whole team is there, right?
Yeah.
The one thing, like one gnome got missed next game, which is pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah.
Considering how much Mighty Blow that the team must have absorbed at some point or another.
Mm-hmm. And last game for this bracket was your game, the Slaughterhouse 11 GG's of Electric City. I'll let you take this and discuss.
Yeah, so this was, there's some sort of logic square for Blood Bowl games, right? Where you have games where you roll well and games where you roll poorly, and you have games where your opponent rolls well and games where your opponent rolls poorly, right? And good games typically end up being games where both players roll the same way. So if you both are rolling dynamite or if you're both rolling awful, you end up with like a pretty good game. So I would say my dice were not stellar. I failed my very first attempt to do anything in the game. The blood spawn just didn't throw a blitz. I rolled a 1 and then I failed my pro check to have it have a chance to go. And it was a game with 0 casualties, which is incredible considering I have like a blood spawn. And I mean, Chris had 3 Mighty Blow on his team, so I was expecting for some of my players to get damaged. So now I did my block dice were fairly solid. They got pretty good. The first couple of hits that I threw were just like going nowhere. However, Chris's dice were probably some of the worst dice my opponents have rolled at any point during the season. And I felt terrible for him because I felt that Chris had played some of the best Blood Bowl that I've played against him ever, like that I've ever seen from him. And he's been playing in the league for quite some time, and I've seen his skills develop over time, right? Like he's gotten significantly better at the game. And he was making decisions based off of his dice rolls, which you kind of have to do, right, to win a Blood Bowl game. You try something, it doesn't work, you need to adjust your plan accordingly. Chris was doing these things, and then the dice were just still not cooperating with him. And I felt pretty bad. I think it was I think he had 3 line hits. I think he knocked down 1 person. I think through the first 3 turns, he knocked down 2 total people, including the person he knocked down on the first turn. It was one of those, every time he threw a block, it was like push skull. He failed. He had the armor 9 catcher that he had on his team. He gave an armor up to a catcher. That catcher failed, I think, all 3 dodges it attempted to make. And that wasn't even against my tackle guys. All right, I have a chunk of tackle on my team, but he was like trying to dodge away from a non-tackle guy, and he would just fail that roll. And so we were playing in a blizzard, which I actually think hurts Chris significantly more than it hurts me. The part about a blizzard that hurts Corn is going for it, right? If I'm forced into a situation where I have to throw a frenzy hit and I have to go for it, then the odds on that happening are worse. But what it does do that hurts Chris significantly more than me is it makes it so you can't throw anything higher than a short pass. So he actually has to keep his thrower in the action to get his thrower to a place where he can complete a pass. He had a passing up on that thrower, so that thrower can throw a long pass on like a 3-up, which is really good, but not in a blizzard. So yeah, the blizzard totally boned him. I think there was at least one time where he failed to go for it because he slipped on the ice and fell over. He got the ball first, and something went wrong during that drive. I think his ogre boneheaded on turn 2, and it left like a gap in his protection of the ball. And so I managed to strip the ball from him and then go put it in. And so I was up 1-0. He was trying to score to tie it up at the half. And it ended up with him having to run like a blitzer into my backfield with the ball. I managed to knock the blitzer over. And so on turn 8, I think I have like a reroll still left. I have like a corn gore who can stand up, grab the ball, hand off to another corn gore. That corn gore can make 2 go for it and make a short pass to like a bloodseeker who is in scoring range. And then the bloodseeker has to like make a go for it. So I was like, okay, there's a line for a touchdown here. I'll go ahead and take that. And everything works. It just all works. That was kind of like a dagger right there, right? Where it's just kind of like, I make a bunch of BS rolls and get a touchdown, and I'm up 2 at the half, and he's got a kick to me type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of like put the game out of reach for him, and then we ended up slugging it out in the second half. But yeah, I felt really bad because it was just like you see somebody play pretty well and they make like good decisions, but the dice don't cooperate. It was I felt like I had that game at least once this season, so like I deeply empathize with him. He put up a fight considering the fact that like neither of us got casualties during that game, right? So yeah, there you go. That's the recap of that game.
Yeah, sounds like a classic for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right, bracket B. First game up was a game that we had talked about. 2 teams kind of beating up, stumbling in, making it. Bad Moon Rising, Might of Asgard. Jim took it with a 2-1 win.
If we under normal circumstances, if we were looking for a game of the week type of thing, like probably the best game of the playoffs, I would nominate this game because Austin did the unthinkable. Right, he scored his touchdown and held Jim to 0 touchdowns in the first half. Right, and he was kind of in command right there. You take a look at that first half and you think to yourself, man, I think Austin can actually pull this out, right? And then Jim Jimmed it, right? Wiggled his way out of there in the second half. And I think Austin needed like a little bit of like re-roll discipline to stay in this game. From what I heard, he spent a lot of re-rolls defensively when he needed to save those for his offense. And so when it came time for him to try to score, he doesn't have any re-rolls to make it work. So yeah, I think Jim got away with one there. That's pretty common for Jim though. I think Austin can be proud of his play in that game for sure, though, right?
Yeah.
So
I watched a good bit of this game, and yeah, the way the first half broke down was Austin had received the ball and was down near the goal line, and he was prepared to try to kind of stall it out. Jim forced him to score just because he had enough pressure. So Austin had to score, and then Austin goes to kick off, rolls a timeout, which was the big factor. Losing that turn was really what kept Jim off the board there.
Necro not really known for its ball handling.
Correct. So in the second half, there was a big scrum going on, and Austin had to use a lot of rerolls to try to make plays for the ball, and they just didn't pan out. And there was a point in the game where I think Jim had 2 or 3 rerolls to Austin 0, and Jim kind of contemplated, like, I can just play for overtime,
and I've got
stalled
rerolls.
out.
Yeah.
I have a whole half with rerolls. You have none. And then he decided to, it's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and score. He scores, kicks off. The ball bounces forward to a side. And one of Austin's first activations on that turn was to throw a block with the Ulfrenner with block and rolls double skull. At which point, Jim's able to go over and like get people on the ball.
I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest. I have never been disappointed by a player the way I've been disappointed by Ulfwerners on the Norse team. Those dumb idiots just refuse to throw hits. They are there to punch people, and they are so bad at it. I'm so mad at them. I can never forgive Ulfwerners.
Yeah, so that was what led to the game ending in regulation. Jim able to go over and get that ball and score. But yeah, it was a really well played game, and I think like if that had just been a push for Austin there, if his turn had not ended there, I think it would have been a different game.
Yeah,
he had time to try to go down and score, finish it in regulation to prevent it from going to overtime. But that one roll, that's all it took.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to ask yourself in that situation, like, I think Jim, talking to Wayne was talking like how Jim had put it after the game when they were discussing it. Jim's mentality is that the vast majority of offensive drives end in touchdowns, and so you can put yourself into trouble by spending a bunch of rerolls trying to stop the opponent from scoring. And they're just going to score anyway. And so you need your rerolls for your offensive drive to make sure that you can seal the touchdown, get it locked in. So,
right, yeah, yes, definitely a good little pro tip if you're listening for future seasons. We'll have to do a deep dive on rerolls in season 2 of the podcast, season 9 of the show, of the league. Next game up was Book of Grudges and the Southern California Trojans.
Oh, man.
Do you have the full recap for this?
Did you get it?
I've gotten the recap, but I feel like you'll be able to tell it better.
Okay, yeah. So, this is where we have to rename the podcast The Right Stuff and get Chase in here to tell it, because he goes full showmanship mode talking about it. Yeah, now, this is one of those where everything was going against Chase in this game. I think every time I touched an elf in the first like 11 turns of the game, the elf left the pitch. I think I ended up putting like 5 elves in the casualty box, and when I looked at the table at one point, there were like another 4 in the KO box. And so the game was scoreless, I think, in the first half, right? I think Chase managed to keep Ide from scoring, but Ide had like done so much damage that Chase couldn't score. So the game was a 0-0 tie at the half. And on Ide's offensive possession, he continued to punish elves left and right, and then he's in a position where he can kind of just run out the clock, but he decides to start fouling Chase's guys just to make sure they're just gone forever, right? And so I think what he ends up more or less doing is he ends up getting himself out of position, and the super blitzer that Chase has, that's like block, dodge, sidestep, mighty blow, tackle, I think, that guy ends up squeaking out of a foul circle somewhere along the way, and Ide panics and scores. And there's still time on the clock. Chase gets back enough people from KO and manages to score to put it into OT. He scores in like 2 turns, because Ide puts his whole team on the line. Chase puts one catcher with sprint on the line, not based with them, gets the ball to that catcher, and that catcher sprints to the goal line. And there's nothing on Hyde's team that can actually catch him. And so Chase is able to score on the next turn, 1-1. We go to OT. And Chase wins the option. He elects to receive in OT. And the ball's kicked. And so Chase Dawkins just moves his whole team back. And Ide moves up to midfield to keep him from running past him. And then Chase just passes back there. And they pass turns like a couple of times. And there's like two or three turns left before Ide realizes that Chase is just going to take his chances on kicks. And so it's far too late at that point for him to take the ball from him. And so Chase manages to be a complete coward in the backfield. And then Chase wins the game on kicks, which is incredible. Considering he had like 3 elves on the pitch on like turn 12 or something of the game. I think there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from a game like this. One, cowardice is a viable strategy sometimes. And 2, you got to put pressure on your opponent. Like, you got to learn how to play against like a Daka and stuff like that, right? So yeah, incredible game. Honestly, I gave this one away. I think he would even say he'd give it away. I believe, said that Chase's picture is on the cover of the Book of Grudges now. So I think that's appropriate after something like this. So
yes, understandable. Yeah. So just for quick reference, so people know what the kicks are.
Yeah, so the way kicks work in overtime, that's a great point. There were a couple of new people to the league who didn't know how those worked. If in a game where you need a winner, first off, you only go to OT if you need a winner for the game. We don't do overtime during the regular season. A draw is a draw. But the way kicks work is it's just a straight roll-off. You roll a die, your opponent rolls a die. If you're the person who rolls higher, you get like a penalty kick, right? And then you do that until one person has won 5 of those penalty kicks. Then you're awarded a touchdown that provides no SPP, and then that's the game. You win from there. So, yep. Only 4 games that need a winner. Playoff games are that way. So,
well, hopefully we don't get any more of this.
Yeah, I lost last season on kicks, but when I was playing Norse, I won a game on kicks. So they're I think actually lost to Sean twice on kicks. I think that's why Sean's in the Book of Grudges twice. Sean Classic, that is. And that's because I think he lost season 2, and then I think he lost like either the next season or the season after. I think he lost twice on kicks. So yeah, Ide and kicks are just, they don't go together. So
all right, 2 games left. So we got Zero Luck Chucks and the Jolly Rotters. That was a 2-0 win for Coop. I watched a good bit of this game, and it was pretty close in the first half. Clay was playing some really solid defense. A zombie uphilled Morg down and stunned him, and then they got a foul on him the next turn to stun him again. But we're not able to keep him down long enough. Yeah. And Morg eventually got up and started causing
havoc,
a nightmare, as Morg will do. So.
Yeah. Coop got some board practice against me, and I think I have like a closer answer to Morg on my list with like the Bloodspawn than Clay had access to. And apparently one of the mummies went down really early in that game, and that makes it definitely a pain for undead to try to compete with Morg's strength. I would be inclined to feed him a zombie until he dealt with that zombie, then feed him another zombie. But then you still have like 10 elves running around wherever they want on the pitch. And so it's really easy to say, yeah, I can neutralize Morg, but then you're still playing against this dark elf team. And you got to figure out a way to do something there, right? So I didn't love this matchup for Clay to begin with. I think he acquitted himself pretty well here, right? I think he did respectably in that game. But I think playing against Morg was going to be bad. The only way that he could win that game is if something goofy happened on Coop's dice side of things. And apparently that just didn't happen here. So,
all right. Going into the game, Coop mentioned the fact that he did not care about going into overtime and not getting rerolls back because
he didn't have any.
So, last game of the week. This was one that involved the team a lot of people had as their favorite to win the league.
Too many people believed in him. I think that's what it boiled down to.
Yeah, ROUS got a 2-1 win over the Rotten Peaches in an extremely. I think if you look at the stats, it was a lopsided game. I think watching the game, it did not play out as lopsided. It was I think it looked even as far as the coaches were concerned, but the stats just went so far against John.
Yeah, the note that I put here that Juan's improbability luck field that surrounds him warped this game. And it's a testament to how John's team, how resilient and just disgusting that team was, despite the fact that Juan put 6 casualties on him during the course of that game, that it drug out to overtime. So, I think with a little bit more even dice on John's side, he probably comes out fine. But Skaven. The Amazon team shouldn't have taken 6 casualties as fast as it did. It was really fast in that game, and so all the damage that Jennings did was KOs, and so they all came back for overtime. So both players, John's having to put 6 or 7 people on the pitch in OT, and Juan's putting a full 11. So, if you're not down any of those really disgusting gut runners that Juan has, if you haven't managed to answer the rat ogre, if you didn't answer the armor down blitzer, you're gonna have a handful in OT just being outnumbered almost 2-1.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Unfortunate ending to that game, but still, I think it was hard fought. So. There was actual blood spilled in that game as well. Yeah. So
one of the blitzers caught John Jennings underneath a fingernail of some kind. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a wrap for round 1 of the playoffs.
Yep. We got a quick in memoriam section because there were deaths.
Yeah.
Even in 8 games, we had 5 deaths, which is pretty substantial.
I think that's above rate.
Yes. So first up, for Return to Monkey, we had Frogstrap, a 2-skill ogre, get rammed to death by Rumbelow. Werenth Zilro, lineman for the Southern California Trojans. Silent Reverie, the Batman Rising's Wraith.
Yeah, Jim said that's the Wraith's position that's completely cursed on that team. Apparently that Wraith has died multiple times. The second Wraith on that team just gets killed. So, again, I guess.
Yeah, watching that game, I think Jim's zombies regenerated every time, but would have traded 2 or 3 zombies for a Wraith at that point.
Yeah, that was my experience playing Necro. Werewolf, Wraith, Flesh Golem gets hurt, no regenerate. Yep. Zombie gets hurt, guess what? He's back, baby.
Yep. We had Ache, Crying Ache from the Rotten Peaches, the linewoman, die. As well as Prince Humperdinck, lineman for ROUS, so they traded lineman there.
Yeah.
And finally, we had a lineman for the Zero Luck Shucks, Loser, died.
They appropriately named Loser.
Yes. Yeah, I think that wraps up our week 1. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we will have some talk about round 2.
Sounds great.
All right, we're back. We've got round 2 ready to talk about. First game up, Halfling Justice of Salesman, a matchup that I know Wayne was preferring to get versus playing against Sean. So
yeah, he didn't want somebody who could overdog Griff against him, right? Yeah. That's what it boils down to, and obviously Black Orcs can't do that. Yeah. So I don't love Jurgen's chances in this game. It really depends on what Bomber does.
Right. Yeah. Being able to take Bomber is possibly an answer to some of the things. It could help alleviate some strength mismatches between Black Orcs and trees.
Yeah. So Bomber robbing trees of blocks and robbing trees of being able to reposition, and Bomber effectively acting as like an additional blitz, forcing. So like when Wayne's able to like create the grove where you've got the trees and you got like Griff nestled in there, and then you have like a bunch of halflings that are kind of screening the outside of that, and then he's knocking over somebody, setting up a foul, stuff like that. That's where the halfling team gets like its most deadly, and you can protect the ball. It's really hard to get to Griff when he's protected by the trees, and the halflings are just there to get in the way, right? And Black Orcs are not fast enough to catch Griff. If like Griff could even have 1 or 2 spaces behind a Black Orc and can run to the other side and sprint and just get out of range, and the Black Orc can't catch it. Can't catch Griff at all. Now, if Griff's ever in a situation where there's a couple of Black Orcs and one can actually like hit him and grab him and then like throw him into another block or stuff like that, that's where Griff could get into trouble. But my suspicion is that situation is very unlikely to occur in this game without the help of Bomber. And honestly, I think Bomber could kill 3 or 4 halflings during the course of a game just by throwing bombs in their direction. And you just roll armor on enough halflings and they'll explode. So, I think that's where Bomber plus like some bribes ends up going really crazy. And I think that's like an avenue to win this game. I don't think there's any other thing that John could induce for this game that will have as much impact as Bomber plus bribes.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. It's just like, I think Jurgen should go and talk to Nate about borrowing his Bomber luck for this game.
Yeah.
It might be necessary.
Yeah, if Bomber has the kind of game against Wayne that he had against me, there's nothing standing at the end of that game, right? Like, because my team is like way more resilient, but Bomber was like blowing up Marauders and Corn Gores, so it was really through some luck on my part that I made it out of that game, and my team is like resilient, so I can't imagine what happens to Armor 7 halflings if they're constantly getting detonated.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I know a few weeks back we had to mention the tackle halfling.
It's a good game for the tackle halfling.
Yeah. I also think we need to mention for Elf Salesman, we've got 2 block goblins, one with a move up, and a tackle strip ball goblin,
which is incredible actually in this game.
So, yeah, could be some back and forth going on. They could do some things here, so that will be interesting to see which of the stunty cohorts can cause the most mayhem. Yeah.
I think Jurgen is in trouble, but his out probably involves bombing, an extended bombing campaign, the likes of which we haven't seen since, I don't know, the Battle of Britain, something like that. So, something like that maybe is enough to win.
Yeah. All right. Up next, we've got Great Tree Good Boys and Slaughterhouse 11. How are you feeling for your game?
During the regular season, I trashed Will. Now, granted, I got lucky early in that game because he induced Carla and Maple, and I casualtied Carla on turn 2, and then I casualtied Maple on turn 3. So at that point, the slaughter was on. So I don't anticipate getting that lucky this time around. He's got enough money for Morg plus Griff, which there's a lot of variations, but let's say Morg plus Griff is like the best combination of star players that you could buy in the game. So if he buys that, that's significantly better than Carla plus Maple, right?
Right.
Morg is way more mobile, Morg is way more deadly. Now, he might have stuff that he prefers, and I don't know. He usually tries to bring something to the table that isn't necessarily what you were prepared for. Every time I've played against him, and he's done it, and he's been playing stunties and has gotten inducements, he's had something that was like slightly counterintuitive or slightly was not what I would have taken in his shoes. So I don't know if he'll deviate from that in this instance. He could try like Deep Root plus Morg, because Deep Root and Griff are the same price. He might even do Griff plus Deep Root, or anything else, right? There's a lot of permutations below that, but I think Morg and Griff. Griff is a way to score. Griff is a way to like I can't outposition Griff with the team that I have. And Griff's Fend is actually extremely relevant against my team because my guys with Frenzy are not the guys with Juggernaut. So a lot of times if I hit Griff, I've only got the one hit on him. So, I don't know. Will may come to a different determination for that game. But I think like Griff having the ball in his backfield and then having like a Fox at like midfield, you can run Griff to the Fox, hand off on a 2, and then the Fox can then just kind of run somewhere and score. And there's very little I could do about that. So that's the type of like board situation that I can't really stop my opponent from scoring if that's the avenue he goes with it. And I think it comes down to how much of his team can I murder. Last time the answer was almost all of it. I could murder almost all of his team. Now my dice were very, very good in that game. Those might have been my best dice all season. The last time we played. So that's like a trap that you could be set in, where it's like, oh yeah, last time we played him, I beat his team to pieces. But I rolled insane. I was rolling if my opponent were orcs. I think my orc opponent would have only had like 3 people on the pitch after that game was over. I think it's really easy to draw the wrong conclusion from that regular season game. There's so much variance in Blood Bowl that you can be so far removed from where the game was already won that all that extra winning you did in the game will give you like a completely misplaced confidence in the outcome of a future game. So now I do think Khorne matches up well into Gnomes. They've got Wrestle, I've got Juggernaut. He has a handful of dodge on the team, and I've got like 4 tackle at this point. And the Bloodspawn is there to threaten whoever gets put on the pitch, right? Claw's Mighty Blow does work against basically anything that doesn't have Ironheart skin. So, if the right situation presents itself, I can remove big, scary pieces with like a little bit of luck on my side. So I don't even have to get that crazy lucky, really, for the Bloodspawn to take out like a tree. So, yeah. I think I'm pretty confident I can win this game, but it depends on his inducement plan, and it depends on other stuff that he brings to the pitch. He could decide to opt for inducements that I'm just not ready for, and I don't want to give him any ideas. But there's like stuff that I would prefer to play against less than Griffin Borg. But I do think Griffin Borg do a lot of work and they go a long way. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and that'll be interesting. I'm going to reserve any sort of judgment until I see what the inducement plan was. I think that's going to have such a huge impact on how I would even predict the game going. But bracket B, we've got Bad Moon Rising, Southern California Trojans. Might be a bit of a grudge match between these two players. So, my take on this is I had picked Chase to win just based on like his team's development, and even with the smackdown that I had delivered, he didn't put too much lasting damage.
The positional players were not like damaged beyond repair. Like Chase's actual good players were not threatened. So I don't think he's taken the damage needed to like just straight up lose this game, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's down one good catcher, but he's got everybody else. Got everybody else he could possibly ask for that matchup.
Yeah. I think that's just a game where, like, with the nature of this necromantic team, if you can get up early, like if Chase can pull out like a 2-0 lead, that might just be insurmountable for this team to recover, just based on the nature of based on how they can move the ball, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Jim's team has one instance of Mighty Blow, and Claws is of relative. It's like least useful against specifically Elven Union. There are some Armor 9 people on the team, but the vast majority of the team is Armor 8. So Mighty Blow is way better in this matchup. Now, Jim does have a bunch of skills that he can take. He's got a regular skill on a werewolf, the block, dodge, tackle one, and then he's got a regular skill on the block, dodge werewolf. I'm willing to bet that werewolf will take tackle. I don't think that's crazy to think that you really want 2 tackle for this game. You definitely want tackle on your fastest pieces against Elven Union, because you don't want those elves catchers walking around in your backfield unattended, right? You want to stick some tackle on them. And then the Wraith can also take a skill. I mean, honestly, tackle on the Wraith, tackle on another werewolf. You've got a Flesh Golem that can take a skill. I might consider Mighty Blow. And then your last werewolf, block, dodge, tackle, maybe you go sidestep. And now you've got a werewolf that can tango on the sideline. There's a lot of... maybe Jim can get some damage done. He's got a lot of skills. He's got inducement money to play with. And so taking all those skills would close the gap between the two teams. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting position. Now, initially I was on team Chase here. Like, I thought Chase would probably beat Jim. But looking at Jim's team and seeing how he can pick up some key skills, I think maybe Jim might be able to do enough damage. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that as one of the best games of this week. I think
so. Yeah, I think that's got the real potential there, right? Both pedigreed players duking it out with good teams. So.
Yep. Last game of the week: Zero Luck Shucks versus ROUS. Is there a chance that Zero Luck Shucks becomes the negative Luck Shucks when introduced to Juan's luck aura?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be. Right now, I feel like Coop has gotten away with a lot for having 0 rerolls. I played a game against Coop several seasons back where Coop rolled 7 double skulls in the same game, which is insane. So I literally can't believe that he has gotten this far with a team with no rerolls. So I think Coop was most worried about Bomber in this matchup because when Coop and Juan played in the regular season, it was apparently between like a chainsaw and Bomber. Juan removed like 6 players by turn 3 or something like that, and so Coop was not eager for there to be a repeat of that. But Coop is going to get a truck full of money. Right, he's getting $615K before Juan overdogs anything. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot to work with.
That's a lot. One interesting thing that did get picked up for the RUS is the Rat Ogre did get tackle.
He's really good with Prehensile Tail, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that goes a long way. If my Bloodspawn had tackle for the game against Coop, then maybe I win that game because I might put some L's on the ground. This Rat Ogre is now like hideously expensive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be disgustingly effective. Maybe Coop. I mean, armor. It's only armor 8, so I do think Juan is renting this Rat Ogre. Now maybe he's able to rent it for the whole playoffs, but there's a good chance that this Rat Ogre gets taken out at some point. It's an armor 8 big guy likes to get themselves into trouble, especially frenzy big guys will often get themselves into positions where they can't extricate themselves pretty quickly, and then the opponent is able to like knock you down and then just step on you a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. So I guess come down to it. Who you got? Who you got in this game?
I'm gonna go with Juan. Okay. I think Juan's gonna get it. I think Juan's just too lucky. He's just way too lucky. So, we got 0 luck versus way too lucky. I'm gonna go with way too lucky every time.
I think it's time for Coop to rebrand his team. He's upgrading from 0 luck Shucks to the some luck Shucks. And I'm gonna pick him at this point.
Okay.
My bracket has been busted. So I need a new team for this pick anyway.
Yeah.
I'm picking Coop.
Coop would be the funniest person to win the league from this point, I think, because his team is the 0 reroll team.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's funniest if he wins. Yeah. So I can see that. The problem is everybody wanted John Jennings to win too much against Juan last time. Like the whole league picked John Jennings to win that game. And that was simply too much luck aura to place on one non-Juan individual. Yeah. So I gotta root for Juan. Wink. So that way, one of us gets to be disappointed. I hope it's not me. Wink.
Yes, I'm manifesting a future in which Chase does not have to Photoshop either Jim or his own name into his comic.
Yeah.
Is the hope. But yeah, that wraps it up for this week, pretty much. So these previews are going to get, quicker and quicker because we got less games to talk about.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They just kind of speed up from here. We'll have to come up with some filler stuff.
Yeah.
We'll have the Cory Booker filibuster it from here.
Yeah.
So
we can just start creating backstories for every player on the roster by the time it gets to the final.
Yeah. So. Well, the reason that my Bloodspawn is named Crazy Teeth is because of the methamphetamine.
Yes. I don't even know where to go from there. I don't know what to call it. But, we appreciate y'all listening wherever you're listening to this now that we're on all the platforms you could possibly hope. YouTube, Spotify, whatever it is that you're listening. Make sure you download, give us a follow, give us feedback. We like hearing from y'all. Give us some things to talk about. Maybe like some, mailbag type things.
Oh, yeah.
We can add that in too.
Yeah, may as well.
But, yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Appreciate you listening.
Have fun, everybody.